It's the FA Cup I was going to say this weekend. It used to be the weekend, didn't it? Now it's on all bloody week, to be honest. It probably starts on Wednesday. Doesn't
Starts
finish till
Thursday, I
next.
think, doesn't
Obviously,
it?
it doesn't finish till next Monday or Tuesday,
God.
I'm sure. But I'm still going to call it the FA Cup weekend. And it's a home game for us. Fourth round against a fairly decent Championship opponent. So let's get the opposition view from Joe from the Turfcast podcast, who has sent us this little video message.
Robin here from Turfcast Podcast, just giving my thoughts out of next weekend's game, the upcoming weekend, obviously, between Burnley and Southampton, all the way down on that south coast at St Mary's in the FA Cup fourth round. Be honest with you, not really fussed about this game. I'm not going to sit here and say I want us to lose. That's not the case. Obviously, I would like us to win and progress in the FA Cup. But if we don't, am I going to lose any sleep over it? Definitely not. Am I even going to be in a mood that we've lost a match? Definitely not. And I'm sure you guys will feel the same as well. Obviously, you guys have got more important things going on at the minute. Obviously, with, unlikely, admittedly, but your bid in survival in the Premier League, obviously off the back of a decent result as well, to be fair. So, you might not feel that it's as unlikely at this stage. But, obviously you guys will be going into it with a bit of confidence. We will be going into it with, hopefully, a bit of confidence. We've still got a game to play yet, as I record this on Sunday night, between the games, because we're playing Oxford on Tuesday, which we should win, but we've already played them once this season, and that was, as you can imagine, a 0-0 draw, just like a lot of our games this season have been 0-0 draws. So, our form's a little bit weird, really, because we're unbeaten in, I think it's 17 games now, which is fantastic. We haven't lost since we lost against Millwall at the Den. We've only lost twice all season. And one of them games had like a lot of mitigating circumstances around it, because we lost at Sunderland the week after, in the middle of the transfer window, should I say, when we were just selling players left, right and centre, and we didn't know who was going to be at the club. And Sunderland are a good side. We found that out now. We didn't realise at the time how good they were going to be, to be fair. But they're a good side, and they've shown that they are probably going to be in the promotion picture come the end of the season. Whether they go up or not, that's a different debate. But so we've actually done well on that aspect. We're not losing games. But we're not winning as much as we need to as well. There's been too many draws. Off the top of my head, I haven't got the league table up in front of me. What I will do is I'll quickly get it up as I'm talking to you, just so I can quickly give you some stats and things like that. And a professional would have just done it without telling you that they're doing it, but. Obviously I'm not a professional. But we do currently sit third in the league. That much I did know. But we've had 13 draws. 13. It's not even the most in the league, to be fair. West Brom have had 14. But I think it's 10 of ours now on 0-0. And that's a third of the games. A third of the games. 33% of our games have finished 0-0. It's awful. In terms of a spectacle, it's awful. Don't be expecting a high-scoring game. Don't be expecting too many goals. Having said that, the game that we played against Reading in the third round of the FA Cup, obviously the round before this, we made a lot of changes, especially, to the entire team. I think we made 11 changes, if I'm honest with you. And you could see that the defence wasn't as good, as you would expect, obviously. And I would presume we'll be making the same amount of changes on the weekend. I don't think we're going to be playing many of our first team squad, if any of them. I think you guys will probably do the same as well. So who knows? If it's going to go to form, it'll be under 2.5 goals, and one goal will win it either way. But with us making a lot of changes, it's hard to see if that will be the case. One thing, like I said, I think we can categorically say that will happen. Is Burnley will make 11 changes and we'll play what is practically a B-side in that game. We did the same at Reading, as I've said, and I think you guys will do the same as well. I don't think you guys will be playing a lot of your first teamers. Obviously, as I've said, you've got bigger fish to fry, as do we. So I think it's going to be a case of two B teams going against each other. And to be honest with you, despite that, I do think it'd be a good marker to see where we're at compared to a team struggling in the Premier League, because obviously we're at the top end, should I say, of the Championship. Not as high as some of us would like to be fair. But it'll be good to pit ourselves against a team struggling at the bottom end of the Premier League. So obviously that's where we want to be next season. We had an awful time there last season, so we can sympathise with everything you're going through. All right, we weren't as bad as what you've been so far this season, but last season was absolutely god awful. And funnily enough, the season before that was probably my favourite ever season following Burnley, and it was quickly followed by what is probably my worst ever season following Burnley. This season, yeah, we're just drawing too many games. We're clearly a good side. You know, we've only lost twice all season. That's the least in the Championship. Even Leeds have lost three times. But the difference between us and Leeds is they've won more games than us, 4 more games than us. So sorry, 3 more games than us. So it's poor in terms of the draws. It's poor in terms of spectacle. I'm not that bothered when it comes to Burnley about being known as an entertaining team. But I don't want to see more 0-0s. It's so bad. Like the weekend we drew 0-0, obviously, with Portsmouth, and we were awful. We just didn't really get going in an attacking sense. But teams can't score against us. Leeds have scored 60 times this season. We've already played them twice. They couldn't score against us in any of them games. So yeah, it's an imbalanced team. We're so good at the back, but not really good going forward. But the foundations are there, and obviously with the signing of Marcus Edwards, who could play against you lot, to be fair, he could be one of the ones that does feature against you guys. Isn't announced officially yet when I'm recording this. Fingers crossed by the time you guys put this out it is. But I believe his medical was today, and I believe everything went well. So fingers crossed he's there on Tuesday, and we might need him on Tuesday. Never mind on Saturday against you. But yeah, a game I'm kind of looking forward to in a sense of just seeing how we will, be able to pitch ourselves against a struggling Premier League team. But not really one I'm overly bothered about, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's a shame to see you guys struggling so much. Fingers crossed you can turn it around and things like that and pull away from that bottom 3 in the Premier League. But yeah, I think it's going to be a case of the same 3 that went up are going to come back down, just like we did the season before, and just like I presume Leeds and whoever else goes up with Leeds, hopefully us, does again next season. I think the gap's getting too big. I know the season before that people will say, well, 3 teams all stayed up, fair enough. But I think now that the gap is just far too big, and something needs to change over the next few years to prevent it from getting even bigger. But yeah, fingers crossed for you guys, you can pull away from it. But yeah, I suspect if Burnley don't go up, we'll be speaking to you next season. Hopefully we don't, because that means we've gone up. But yeah, if we do go up, hope to speak to you next season in the Premier League.
Joe joining us there from the Turfcast podcast to give us his thoughts on Burnley season and also the game. There's lots to unpack there. Interesting, you saying that he had his best year following the club, followed by his worst. I think we can all probably agree with that. Alfie, I'm going to come straight to you because Joe was saying there that we're probably going to make wholesale changes for the game. And I don't think we will because we didn't last time and there's no need for us to this time either.
No, I agree with you. I believe we've got a full week until the next game after that. I might be wrong. I think it's a full week after. And, Ivan Juric needs to win some games. Southampton Football Club need to win some games. So they're not going to turn down an opportunity to win at home. I don't know what the ticket sales will be like or whatnot, but they've been really well supported this season. Every home Premier League game is sold out. Every away game, apart from Man United, which took a reduced allocation, is sold out, which is incredible. And, there'll be people there for the cup as well. They've got to win. And to be fair, why not have an FA Cup run? You've been given a Championship opponent in the 4th round. You never know who's going to come next. So I think that they will be giving everything they can to progress. Maybe there'll be 1 or 2 changes. Maybe Ramsdale, for example, get a weekend off, given the fact that he looks to be struggling a little bit. So, McCarthy comes in, and then maybe a couple of other younger lads in the team as well. Maybe Wellington gets a rest if he's still feeling it from the weekend. But I wouldn't imagine any more than a few changes. I think they'll go as strong as they feel they can for this one.
It's crazy, Glen, that they're third in the Championship. It's going to be an interesting benchmark for us, for sure. But I think, as Joe was kind of alluding to there, they're difficult to score against, but they don't score many going forward either.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised that Burnley fans are kind of happy with that. I mean, if you're like a yo-yo team, they're in the same sort of bracket as us, aren't they? When they're up and down and whatnot. I kind of feel that if you're in the Championship, you've got a little bit of a duty to your fans, really, to be entertaining. You should be scoring more goals in the Championship. You've just had the most miserable season on earth. and you're now back down in the Championship, and fans will have actually been looking forward to it. They'd have got about 3/4 of the way through last season, a bit like we are now, and saying, well, I'm quite looking forward to being back in the Championship because blah blah blah. But they're trying to get promoted by boring everybody to death.
5 0-0 draws in their last 7, 5,
including their own fans. I mean, it's all very well being tight defensively, but most fans would rather see their team win 3-2 than nicking the odd 1-0 and drawing every other game 0-0. So, but I mean, I don't think their league form is really relevant. I mean, as the lad said, they made 10 changes for the last round of the cup, and looking at their fixtures, they've got a game in a couple of days before they play us. They've also got a midweek game straight after they play us, and then the following week they've got Preston. Sort of 3 days after that, which is one of their big sort of derby matches. So, the 4 games they've got coming up in the next sort of week and a bit, we're very much the lowest priority out of those 4. And with Scott Parker being the risk-averse guy that he obviously is, there's just absolutely no way he's going to risk his first team players to start the game against us. There may be a few sort of like first teamers on the bench, I would imagine. Depends how big their squad is, but and I agree with Alfie. We will be more or less full strength. It's Saturday for us, and I don't really see that yesterday's win has changed anything particularly. We're not suddenly going to save all our players for a winnable game at the weekend. I mean, we got Bournemouth the week after, so I think it will do someone like Wellington more good to play another game than it will be to have another 2 weeks off. He's just had 6 weeks off, and they're all 6 months off, hadn't he? Since he got injured. So I think as long as he comes, recovers from yesterday and gets through, a few training sessions this week, then he plays. I don't really see the team being changed that much, and I think we'll go into it like we did against Swansea with the idea of putting it to bed and getting through to the next round. That will certainly be what Ivan Juric wants to do. He doesn't strike me as a manager who really cares about the sort of conventions of the English game, if you like, of resting players for the FA Cup.
Well, they were all in for training today, weren't they? He said after the win last night. He said, but they're being in the morning.
That was my favourite quote from the press conference. I just asked him, what did you say to the players, after that? And he went, I told them you got training tomorrow morning, and just stopped talking. I thought, nice.
What a reward for a win.
But that's
to be honest, the players, having won a game, they should want to get back in.
Yeah,
they should want to get back in, and the debrief of the game isn't as horrific as. Can you imagine the next day? I mean, what was it? The game after when we lost 5? Was it 5-0 to Spurs, where they had 2 days off straight after that?
Yeah.
I'd have had them in at 7 o'clock the following morning to watch that crap. So they should have wanted to get back in after the game yesterday and debrief it. It's not exactly going to be a heavy session straight after a game, is it? But
no,
you should want to get back in for the morning and see your teammates and go through what you did well. So I mean, I'm looking forward to the game against Burnley, and the manager will certainly be okay. I want 2 wins in a row, and then obviously Bournemouth have been ridiculously good. But they're not without issues. They've got a lot of injuries at the moment, so we've got to go into beat Burnley and then go into that game against Bournemouth thinking we can get something out of that as well.
Same for you, is it, Steve? I mean, on paper, it's a decent game, isn't it? Home, 4th round, Championship opposition.
Yeah, I mean, I think most fans like a cup run, don't they? So other than having to shell out for extra tickets and stuff, but yeah, you always want to progress in these cup competitions, especially when you're playing against when you get the luck of the draw and you're drawn at home against teams in divisions below you. You don't want to be. I mean, it wouldn't be that much of a giant killing given the way that as the lad mentioned that we've kind of been swapping places the last couple of years.
Yeah,
wouldn't be a huge giant killing if we lost it, but still you go into that, you kind of get that sort of record of, well, we got dumped out of the FA Cup by a team in the division below who made 11 changes, and yeah, it suddenly then doesn't reflect quite so well, and everyone gets a little bit annoyed about it. It's like, well, why did I bother paying 20 quid for the ticket for this if you're just going to toss it off against against a B team.
Unusual turn of phrase, like Steve.
Yeah.
What are the ticket prices, by the way? Is it more?
It's 20 quid. Yeah, same as the third round. I mean, I said at the time I thought they got the pricing massively wrong for Swansea, and the attendance I think probably backed that up.
Yeah.
And I personally, I'm expecting kind of about the same.
Although that was on the telly, wasn't it? That one as well. So
it was, and it was a Sunday.
And we've won a game. We've won a game.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
perhaps
yesterday's result might suddenly put another 1,500, 2,000 on the gate. Who knows? But yeah,
how can the club be happy with 20,000 empty seats, which is what they had at the last game?
Yeah,
12,000 gate, 20,000 empty seats. How can you be happy with that? And then and then we get another championship side in the next round, and they put the same price in again. I don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, and also obviously in the FA Cup, the club only gets 40% of the money anyway. So yeah, 40% of not much is still not much. Whereas if you price it sensibly and get 25,000 in, then actually those 25,000 are buying food and drink and merch and stuff, and the club gets all the money from that. So it's just weird commercial thinking.
Have to agree that both clubs have to agree the pricing.
I would theoretically, but in practice, no. Basically, the home club decides what the prices are. They inform the away team. The away team, if they're absolutely not happy, can go to the FA and say, "Can you get involved here?" But basically, they don't bother.
Steve, do we know if Spurs did that when Tamworth charged like 45 quid for?
No, they didn't. No, I mean they just took it as a look. We've only got 600 tickets, so actually our fans will be quite happy to pay 45 quid for this.
Fair enough.
Because it's a complete novelty. I mean the ones who I thought might complain would be Leicester, who are at Old Trafford again. And I think they're being charged 60 quid.
That is outrageous. That's so bad.
And I mean that's the sort of ticket pricing where clubs should be taking a stand. But ultimately, Leicester are a relatively unique case in that obviously everybody knows that they're dancing on the dotted line as far as PSR regulations are concerned. So getting 40% of a 60 quid a pop sellout at Old Trafford is probably in their own interests. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, as I say, you look at the attendance for the Swansea game. What was it, 12,500?
Yeah.
That tells you whether the ticket pricing was correct or not. I mean, the answer is no. And for them to have stuck with it for a game actually that might even be less attractive, given that everybody can see a league table and see the opposition's results as they've happened over the course of the season. Everyone knows that Burnley have drawn 10 games 0-0 this season. They know it's not going to be a thriller unless we find a way to break down their second 11. Which we might do. I mean, it might be that we do go really strong again, and just tear them to bits. In which case, yeah, happy days. Everyone's enjoying it, and yeah, we then move on to Bournemouth, sort of quite optimistically. But yeah, it could well be just one of those games where Parker ball takes full effect, and everyone just falls asleep in their seats.
Well, do you remember when Ivan Juric was hired, Steve? We had a look at Torino's results, and like in their last two Serie A seasons under Ivan Juric, they'd drawn about 20 of their games 0-0 as well. So if there's ever a 0-0 to predict, then this is probably the one.
I'll be honest with you, I haven't bought my ticket yet, and you haven't done much to convince me. I need to go, so I might sit this one out.
We won yesterday, Martin. What more incentive?
That's true.